Good morning, Scapers. I'm going to explain to you how to kill Rasial on mobile. And I'm not going to take terribly long because I want to get right back into doing it. Something worth mentioning is that it's always a good idea to turn your graphics textures off. Just go to your graphics, scroll down to textures, turn off terrain blending and textures, and that'll just make sure that everything renders correctly on mobile. Okay, so the key to winning any PVM encounter on mobile is, of course, preparation. You have to have the abilities that you're going to want to fire ready so that you can access them easily on your inputs bar. I'm going to tell you exactly which ones are most critical, and then I'll walk you through a fight to show you when you're going to use them. You're going to let Revolution take the wheel in your Revolution bar on the bottom, and for the most part, that's going to stay the same. You will not have to change it once for the Rasial encounter. Now let's set up your Revolution and input bars. Remember, these are not all of the abilities we're going to use in the fight. These are just the ones that we're going to want to be able to fire off with zero notice. Everything else we can find in our ability books and prepare to use with plenty of time because we'll know that it's coming up. So for your Revolution bar, we're going to use my standard DPS bar that I take to every fight. For anybody without a Zuck Cape, you can use my bar 101 here on screen, or if you have your Zuck Cape, you can use my best in slot DPS bar. What this does is it lets you throw a lot of death schools, it lets you go into living death, it tells your conjurers to attack, and it keeps your stacks growing, and it also spends them for you. You start in the top left, and read from left to right. The buttons on your left and right correspond exactly to the Revolution bar on the bottom of the screen, and if you have the same bars selected, you can see how they go in sequence as well as how they display. And then, for whatever reason, you jump all the way over to the right side and read from right to left on the top row, like you're reading a manga. It's very confusing, and I apologize for it, and I do not know why it had to be that way, but this is how it is. I never change this bar. It works for almost everything. And for this encounter, you won't need to change the Revolution bar you're using even once. One Revolution bar and one input bar will be sufficient. Now let's make your Revolution input bar. The bar for all the abilities you'll want to be able to fire off at a moment's notice, starting with Eat Food. Eating is important, followed by Guthix Rest, which is just another food button. You press them both back and forth to heal up. Surge is how we will start the encounter. We have to be ready to surge. Basic attacks are going to let us stall our adrenaline spending. The special attack is our deadliest attack for finishing him off. Soul Sap allows us to build up attacks for a volley. Volley is the volley that will fire when we want to use them. The Prism of Restoration heals our Hellhound in the final phase. Split Soul does extra damage at the start. Invoke Death will finish him off once and for all. Soul Split is one of our main healing things. Bloat is a powerful, easy press. Deflect Magic shouldn't be there, and Deflect Necromancy will protect us at the very start of the fight. Now that you have your input bar and your Revolution bar set up, let's talk about gear. I'm also going to do this kill the way I first did it without any pieces of the First Necromancer's gear. I do have the tier 95 weapons, however. I think that it's impossible to successfully and consistently kill Rasial without them. It can be done, but it is very, very difficult. You can see the perks that I have on the gear here. These are just the best perks to have for adrenaline and defensive management. You want Undead Slayer for certain because that just boosts all of your damage against Rasial. And then it's good to have Enhanced Devoted or Devoted on your armor, as well as Invigorating because it gives you more adrenaline. I have standard best in slot perks on my main hand and my offhand weapon. What these are is subject to change, so you'll probably want to check the wiki and make sure that you have the most up-to-date information about what that would be for necromancy. Another thing that I will rely on that is a very high-ticket item is 2 items of the Crypt Bloom armor set, the gloves and the boots. These, combined with your Animate Dead spell, you're going to be able to get rid of a lot of the damage that Rasial does, and it's just going to make the fight much more survivable for you. A Salve Amulet E can fill the next slot, and as far as your book, a Win book or a Scripture of Jazz are both adequate choices. Obviously bring your Nexus, that's kind of a take everywhere with you thing. I bring the following items that will all be used one time each. First is a replenishment potion to restore your adrenaline early on in the fight. The next is a vulnerability bomb, which will lower Rasial's defenses early in the fight. I bring an overload, the best kind that you can make. I use the Elder Overload Salve because it maxes your stats the most. For this particular encounter, I use something very peculiar called the Portent of Restoration. I use the highest level version at the highest level of divination, which is created using incandescent energy and cooked rocktails. What these do is they automatically heal you every time you fall below a certain health. That's going to take care of most of the healing that Soul Split doesn't cover. We want food that doesn't drain our adrenaline, so I go with Blue Blubber Jellyfishes and Guthix Rest Potions. Guthix Rests are made using a Harlander potion with a clean Marintil. I then like to put them into flasks. You'll also need 2 rune pouches, which you will fill with the runes that you require to cast Animate Dead and a Prism of Restoration to heal your Hellhound later on. For the encounter, I always bring a Hellhound. A Hellhound is going to reduce your damage taken by 10%. You have to make sure you're on the correct spellbook for this encounter, which is Ancient Magic, because you need to use Prism of Restoration and Animate Dead. So you can do that over here at the Lectern and War's Retreat, or using your 99 Magic Cape. If you've got your Hellhound ready, you've got your Crypt Bloom gloves and boots, and you've already cast Animate Dead, and you have your Revolution and input bars set up, we're ready to go into this encounter. The way to remember everything you have to do for this fight is to go all the way over from top to bottom through all the icons on the right of your screen. In the first tab, your inventory, you're going to want to take a sip of your best overload. That's all you need in that particular tab. The tab below it is your worn equipment. The only thing we need to do in here is activate our pocketbook if we haven't activated it already. Moving on. The next tab is skills. Obviously you don't need anything in your skills tab, so skip right ahead of that. In the next tab we have abilities. You're going to want to switch over to the Necromancy ability book, and you're going to want to go all the way down to the bottom and click Conjure Undead Army. Moving on. The next tab under that is your spells tab. You're going to want to go all the way to the Necromancy spellbook, and you're going to want to cast to extend your conjure's lifespan. This takes some of your health, but seriously don't worry about it. The next tab under that is your prayers. You scroll all the way down to the bottom of this, and you activate your Sorrow Curse. This is going to boost your necromantic powers, and also it's going to sap some of Rasial's, or something like that. I don't know, but I know that when I fight without using this thing, I lose. If I'm ever dying for no explainable cause at Rasial, it's usually because I've forgotten to activate Sorrow. So make sure that's on. That's going to start draining your prayer super fast. So as soon as that's on, we're going to want to join the encounter. Once you've joined and spawned into the arena, you're going to want to surge twice and at the same time use 2 inputs, both of which look fairly similar, which is kind of helpful. One is to activate Protect from Necromancy. The other is Invoke Death. You should try and hit both of these before you reach the final destination of the 2 first surges you do. You'll surge close enough that you can just walk a couple of steps over into this tiny little triangle and this green plasma wall that Rasial has, without worrying about turning around to face him, because Auto Retaliate will take care of that for you. You stay in your Necromancy ability book, and you activate 2 powers before he spawns into the arena. One is to command the skeleton to attack. The other is to command the ghost to attack. And then you go over to the ability book for defensives, and you activate Anticipate. What Anticipate does is it stops him from knocking off your Protect from Necromancy prayer for a little bit, while you build up adrenaline and get your first DPS out. Then it's just a matter of waiting. What you're watching at this point in the fight after you've done Anticipate and commanded everything is your adrenaline bar above your character's head. You're going to watch it build up and it'll be full of yellow, and then all of a sudden it's going to get totally depleted. That usually happens when you go into living death. Your adrenaline bar will steadily build up, and then when it jumps back down, you do these things in your inventory. Sip your adrenaline renewal potion, throw a vulnerability bomb, and turn on Split Soul, which is the curse that helps turn your soul split into a damage increase instead of a healing power. And in your inputs, you're going to go to Soul Split. This ensures you get lots of salvos of damage with Death Skulls. Then you're going to go over to your defensives abilities again, and you're going to wait over the Resonance button. Just sit there and wait. The cue you're waiting for is Rasial will say, "Suffer at my hand." The minute he says that, just start spam clicking Resonance, because you're going to catch that attack and you're going to use it to put yourself at full health. See, you'll notice how the health jumped up there. All right, the next thing that you're going to want to wait to use is Reflect. This is a little bit down under the enhanced abilities, and the queue that you're waiting for is above Rasial's head, where he has the circles that are filling up of the souls he's collected. When he gets to 5, he's always going to fire off This is True Power, which is a super powerful attack. And you're not actually going to want to protect yourself totally from this. Instead, what you're going to want to do is kind of tank the hit and also reflect it back at him. When he says This is True Power, spam click on Reflect, making sure you have enough adrenaline to use it. You have to have over half your adrenaline. If you're failing to have the adrenaline for whatever reason, despite following all of the revo bars I've set up, what you can do is you can click Basic Attack to make sure that your character doesn't do any adrenaline spending leading up to this. But when the time comes, use Reflect, send True Power right back at him, and then you're good to go, waiting for the next thing he's going to do. Scroll all the way to the top of your defensives. The next thing you're going to use is Anticipate. A few beats after he does This is True Power, he's going to run at you and he's going to hook you with his scythe, and that's going to stun you unless you have Anticipate active. And then when he scythes you, it's not going to stun you or hardly damage you for anything. Then he's going to jump away from you, acting like everything went exactly like he planned and he's totally cool. And he's going to say, nowhere near. If he jumps to a place that is close enough to the wall, you should stay with your back to the wall facing him, because then his line of ghosts is not going to be able to hurt you, which is an attack that he does a lot. If he jumps off somewhere random, you have no choice but to have to deal with that mechanic by moving out of their way when they show up. You keep DPSing him, there's really nothing else to wait for until the final stage of the fight. When he hits 200,000 health points, he will jump up onto the wall, and what you do is you take care of yourself and your Hellhound. You open up your inventory, you use Excalibur to heal yourself, and you use the Prism of Restoration to heal your Hellhound. And you switch to your tier 90 Death Guard if you're not using it already. You use its special ability so that you can do a large amount of damage, and then if you're using an Omni Guard, you put it back on. Running back and forth, and I cannot stress this enough, you have to click far away from your character so that they run instead of walk. For whatever reason, if you click next to your character, they'll walk to that tile, and if you click far away, they'll run to it. You can click on the mini-map, or you can click on the floor itself, but you have to run all the way very far so that you're not running into these black lightning attacks that come out of the ground. But while running, you want to be pushing input ability. No more revolution, no more clicking on Rasial. Your character attacks too slowly when you do that. You have to use basic attack and bloat. Those are pretty much going to be the most easy ones to use because they don't cost much adrenaline and they have a short cooldown. I'll also use soul sap sometimes so I can build up for a big volley of souls at the end of the fight, but I'm basically killing him with the special, the basic, and the bloat. You just keep repeating and repeating and repeating until he gets under 30,000 life points, at which point the death mark will take effect and he'll be finished off. Congratulations, you got your first Rasial kill. The only difference between the first kill and the 10,000th kill is how much time you have. However long you grind this boss, you'll eventually get whatever the hell it is you wanted from it. All you have to do is repeat this method. Once you have it, you can switch out all of your Death Warden with the tier 95 First Necromancer robes, and that'll help you to do the fight a lot faster and a little bit safer. Thanks for listening, I hope you enjoyed. Like and subscribe if you want to hear future guides for beating RuneScape bosses on mobile.